Hi, this is Lucas Garritson calling from Burgos Garritson Law, Telugu NRI Radio. This is our weekly immigration update show. Want to thank everyone for tuning in and participating on Facebook and YouTube Live. And as always, we'd like to welcome everyone. If anyone has any questions or concerns or topics they would like to discuss, please feel free to comment or call into the show. We'd like to include as much participation as possible. This week, I think a lot of people are excited to hear all the news and the things that have been, moving in relation to GC, the GC backlog, and how we can hopefully expect to see more reform, comprehensive immigration reform in the way that that's progressing. I think there's been a little bit of expectation about what they might do this year. I think, we discussed that in Hill, and pretty much the visa bulletin came out this last week, and there's much to be expected, where we're seeing a little bit to, no movement as far as compared to last year, then that's can be addressed to the point that USCIS is still pending quite a few EB adjustment cases that were this last November. And I know that they're working diligently to get these cases processed as fast as possible before the visas expire. Last year was a little irresponsible the way it was administered. The agencies weren't really talking with one another about what the capacities might be. Maybe they're passing the buck from one agency to another. In any reference to this, I think the most important thing is to realize that, the agencies need to do a better job to process these cases, because this is obviously impacting people's lives, livelihoods, plans, and things like this. Having said that, I think there's also been a lot of buzz here, in the past couple of days. I know Venkat and I have discussed this quite a bit, at least for 1 year, where we've been really discussing this comprehensive immigration reform. How would this happen? How would it look? What method would there be? this to happen. Quite surprisingly, to a lot of people, not to Venkat or myself, but it looks like, with this new infrastructure bill that's being prioritized to go through both the House and Senate at the same time, there looks like there's been provisions that are going to be okayed. As far as right now, we know in the House, it's been passed through the Judiciary Committee, which is what's to be expected. And, a lot of people are excited at this moment. A lot of people want specific information. What's going to happen? What about this? How is this going to happen? And I want to take the moment this week to maybe go step by step and explain the process, explain exactly what are the procedural steps involved. So when you hear a news story or you read an article, you have the up-to-date information to analyze the information yourself to know exactly where we're at in the process, or how would this change impact me. So whenever the infrastructure bill was proposed and is going through the Senate and the House, we know that whatever's voted on in the House will pass because of a Democratic majority in relation to any proposal. The main battleground, if we can call it that, would be the Senate. Now, the Senate is made up of representative senators that, two hail from each state. So we have 50 states, there's 100 senators, and we have the president of the Senate, which is our vice president of the United States, that can cast a tie-breaking vote, 51 to 50, to push through any measure. Now, the Senate rules require a certain amount beyond the 51 votes to be approved for a law to go through. So traditionally what we have is we have a House bill. The bill advances to the Senate. If the Senate votes and approves the bill, then it goes to the president. The president signs it, it goes into law. In this circumstance, president set out an agenda in the sense of I want to handle the infrastructure, help the economy, do certain things in that regard. And both the Senate and the House concurrently, which means at the same time, had their own bills that they wanted to put through. So we have a lot of progressive ideas, a lot of conservative ideas as far as not wanting to spend as much money. And these were, the guts, so to speak, are still being worked out as far as exactly what's in the bill. So the Senate parliamentarian, which says what's related in this vote with this bill and things like this, has okayed the Senate bill, to have certain amendments that impact certain economic recovery or infrastructure. The loop in with tied to immigration would be that certain immigrants are key to our economy, are key to our infrastructure and the building of our economy, to the continued growth of our economy, so to speak. So what that has done is kind of given the green light where once the bill comes through from the House and it goes to the Senate, anything that is related to employment, immigration, things like this can be included in the Senate bill, and that would only require a majority of votes. So we would just need the 51 votes to 50 votes, or 51 to 49, depending on whether or not the tie-breaking vote is cast. This would also prevent any type of a filibuster or anything else that would occur to not pass. So Venkat and I have discussed over the past year, if we see comprehensive immigration reform, it would come in the package of being possibly broken into pieces and being piecemealed in. Now, we've obviously heard a lot of news about DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, a pathway to citizenship for them. We've heard about TPS, temporary protected status, people who are here from countries that have had natural disasters or there's certain economic turmoil. and certain remedies for them. Typically, what can we do to get, from where the status is right now to more of a permanent status or citizenship. And then also included in this, which often receives far less news coverage or attention, is going to be our employment-based backlog. So we have a lot of people both from China and from India that are in a huge backlog for employment-based visas. Now, what I think's been proposed in the past and pretty much a drafted bill, so to speak, of provisions that we would most likely see if something were introduced. Venkat and I discussed this, maybe 4 or 5 months ago here. We basically saw more or less like the key points, the wish list, so to speak, if anything were introduced and put through. And I think we can look, the easiest way to see any type of reform is going to be around these 3 areas that we discussed. These 3 areas were introduced, and today, I think, or yesterday, were passed from the the House Judiciary Committee, and it'll go forward through to the Senate. So, as anything goes, until anything's actually voted on and passed and makes it to the president's desk for signature, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of negotiations. There's a lot of things that can change for the positive or for the negative, depending on which way you look at it. And it's always a moving target. Now, I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to see, positive movement in the sense of hopefully addressing this horrendous employment-based backlog that we've all been suffering through for many years. What I would recommend is, we need to take this time right now, as the bill is debated, as the bill's being pushed through, to get to the Senate. Let's reach out to our local representatives, our Congress people, to let them know how this is going to impact your life, how this can impact your family, your livelihood, your ability to have a permanent place here in the United States. Then let's also reach out to the 2 senators that represent your state, and reach out to their office as well, and let them know the importance of this historic bill, because we do want to capture the momentum. We do want to capture the opportunity. This is a once in a decade or once in a quarter century opportunity, because these changes don't happen that often. And so we want to take advantage and strike while the iron's hot, so to speak, so we can, hopefully see some type of relief to this backlog or any change that might benefit the community in general. That's more or less where it's at. I know a lot of people are eager to hear more about the specifics which are included in the bill. I know the idea has been floated that, there's certain penalties if you're here undocumented, like if you're a deferred action for childhood DACA recipient, that you might have to pay a penalty on top of the normal fees of maybe $1,500. There's been also talk about, I think, with EB-5, employment-based 5th category, of paying an extra $50,000 to process faster. And I think there was an idea floated for $5,000 fee on top of the normal fees to pursue employment-based at a faster rate. Again, these are all just, I think, ideas that are floated out there. It's not anything that's really gone from pen to paper for a vote or anything like that. So I know a lot of people are confused and not understanding the process. And I think the best thing we can do at the moment is just express the need for change, and maybe explain how not changing the current situation is going to negatively impact your life, your family, your kids who are probably U.S. citizens, and that examples of that to help move the needle on this. If anyone has any specific questions or queries, please feel free at any time to go ahead and submit a question or call in. We can try and address that the best we can. but other than that, it's going to be an exciting, couple of weeks. Hopefully we can see, some movement or process that's more of a positive movement moving forward with this infrastructure bill in the next coming couple of weeks, I think. Also, going hand in hand with that, we've also in our office here been handling quite a bit of this H480 litigation from mandamus actions. We've been, filing quite a few of these cases and had a little bit of a different strategy, I think, than a lot of other people are accustomed to. In our strategy is, I think other people file in large groups and try and, have positive impact in that manner. We've here at our office have been filing individual cases. So, if you have an individual case and you live in Nebraska and you're filing in your service centers in Nebraska, we file your case in Nebraska rather than, going to DC or Maryland and filing there. There's been a lot of pushback from the assistant U.S. attorneys and from the U.S. Attorney's Office in DC saying that this isn't proper venue. You shouldn't file here. Then they file in the other, court in Maryland, and then they say, well, there's not proper venue here either. So there's somewhat of a confusion now. We've more or less circumvented that whole problem by just going straight to the source. If we file for where you live in that district or where the service center is, pretty much we can always be assured that venue is going to be correct, and there won't be much of a challenge with that. We have also been seeing, some approvals, a little bit of background again on H480 litigation. Once you file your mandamus action, the government has 60 days to enter an appearance and respond. Typically what happens is every single case, the government's going to wait until day 59 or day 60 to make an appearance and file their motion. In that time between from the filing date to day 60, the assistant U.S. attorney will 9 times out of 10 will reach out, see what we can do to settle the case, if we can agree to a stipulated dismissal of the case. A lot of stuff's done during this time to where we can help, hopefully get the case approved. Most of the time that's the resolution that happens where we're able to maybe pull the case out, make it prioritized, get approved faster, and so on and so forth. I know there is a rule proposed right now that hopefully will go through, which would allow premium processing for H4EAD cases for applications in the future. That's still open for comment, I believe, and even if it's added to the regulations, it still could be anywhere from 60 to 180 days before you actually have that opportunity to go ahead and upgrade to premium. So even though there's also a lot of news about that right now, if everything went through and everything were to be moving forward with that, it would still take some time before we would see any added benefit of actually being able to file the premium fee and get the upgrade for the H4EAD. I think that's main coverage of all the talking points we had. Again, if anyone's interested in finding out any more information or covering a different topic, please call in or message us, and we can go ahead and hopefully address your question here. Also, I'm not sure if FinCap might have any added comments or suggestions. If he can join us for a minute.
Yeah. Hi, Lucas. So I do have a couple of questions on some 485 adjustment of status, and then later we can discuss about the budget reconciliation budget, and the immigration provision. As today we have a limited time, we will close another 9 to 10 minutes. So let's come to 485 adjustment status. Recently, I'm seeing the G28 is denial. Can you tell me what? Generally, I know that there is attorney information So if any GAT is rejected or some improper refill, what is the next step? Is any impact to the main applications or else? Maybe you can suggest on that one.
So that's a good question. So, this past year, we've been in a more of a pandemic. USCIS has modified their process and procedures as well. So we've pivoted to different processes. In the past, we were required to have a quote unquote wet signature, which means that you have an original signature on all forms submitted, whether, if the attorney signs, the applicant or petitioner signs. That was required. After, everything shut down last March, USCIS modified the policy to allow an original signature, but the original signature could be, stored electronically or, signed and scanned and then emailed. So it didn't have to be an original wet signature, it just had to be original signature. What has happened is, sometimes based upon that, the USCIS is rejected for not being a correct signature, which really for a G28, what that means is that you're giving permission to the attorney to receive information on your case. It doesn't have any impact on your case at all. It doesn't have anything to do with your case other than attorney also gets notification if you get a receipt, an approval, an RFE. Attorney gets a courtesy copy as well. So if you do see that, doesn't mean anything negative in part. I think, for some of the cases I've heard about, I think the main reasoning for this type of rejection would be possibly electronic use of a signature, but it's not fatal to a case. It doesn't delay a case. It doesn't hinder a case or anything like that.
Okay. So if anything, just we can go and update on online or something, or what is the next step?
You can resubmit the G28 to USCIS, and then all we would know is if we get the receipts again or not. So that's pretty much the only change with that. It's just so attorney can be notified for any movement on the case, or if there's a problem with the case, attorney can call in and talk to a USCIS officer. That means we're attorney of record. We don't need the beneficiary or the applicant or petitioner to be with us when we make that call.
Okay. Did you see any I-140 approved in normal process in your recent days or something?
Yeah, we've seen the I-140s approved in normal process. I would imagine you're referring to downgrade petitions.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. We've seen that. So I think what you have to realize, like what we discussed in the past, when we're talking about the downgrade and the processing, you have to keep in mind, like what the priority date is, what your visa category is. And the officers right now are working at a rapid pace as far as trying to get as many cases approved as they can before the 30th of September. So whenever they do approve a case, it could be conditional in the sense that they they'll say, hey, we approve your case, welcome to the United States of America, but we reserve the right in the future to ask you to come in for interview or to send this evidence or that evidence. So in the sense that it's an I-140, obviously you would need that to be approved to get the GC. So depending on where you are in the sense of the timeline for your priority date, if when they're working on your case would determine how fast that might get approved.
Okay. So in downgrade process, EB2, EB3, do you see any GC approvals are still in progress? And we know the Texas Service Center is a too extreme delay. I think September they started to process faster. So as you said, most of they are trying to educate it as much as by September 30. But still now, did you see any GC approval from Texas Service Center?
Well, I think what you're going to see is when you get approvals, Texas Service Center is one. You'll see your case will also process from the National Benefits Center. It'll go to a local. I think a lot of people are seeing transfer notices now where they're seeing their case transferred to maybe a local field office. So I don't know if the service center at the moment really matters in the sense of how fast it's going to be approved. I know, they're trying to increase the bandwidth on how fast they can process a case, how soon they can get everything taken care of. So as far as being focused in on exactly Texas Service Center or anything else, I don't know if that's beneficial for anyone. It's just, I think at the end of the day, you have to look what's my priority data. If I'm 2012 or late 2012 EB3 downgrade, I think that there's a good chance your case is probably going to be approved, if not already, versus someone with a mid 2013 case or late 2013.
Okay. So today, Charlie's and chat with Charlie's, he said that events we don't see any movement for next couple of months, and not sure it is a retrograde to an EB3. So, what do you think in entire year 2022? Will you see any further movement for EB2 and EB3 in terms of filing date and the final action date?
Yes, like you and I have been talking for a while. I think we're going to see more of a cautious approach. USCIS has to know how many cases are processing. They had 100,000 extra cases filed last year that were pretty much downgrades. Just think about that for a second. Most of the people have a case that's been pending, we know, for at least 7-8 years who filed for GC. How many times or how many I-140s do they have after changing employer maybe, or maybe some other issue? And then now also on top of that, they downgrade them. So each person might have 2 or 3 I-140s, right? Then USCIS has to see who filed last year. It's just a huge mess. They have to know what's there, what to expect. So if your case is approved and we know that your alien number, you've been issued GC, we know that your other I-140s with this alien number are no longer needed, USCIS can use that data and determine how fast, how far to move. And I'm sure, they're not too happy with Charlie in the sense of last year what happened. This year, they're probably saying, hey, we can only handle an additional 20,000 cases a month beyond capacity. And I think that's more of a responsible way of proceeding. So I think at some point, once the dust settles from knowing how many people filed last year, have GCs, how many other are outstanding, I think we'll see probably in January, maybe we'll get news in December of how fast things are going to start moving. But everything should be moving at another 9-10 month clip, once everything kind of settles here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lucas. I think today we limit to 30 minutes. So about the budget reconciliation budget and immigration provisions, I think this is a very early stage. Maybe by the next week or next couple of weeks, we will get the more information on this one, and we will get more clarity on this one. So we can discuss very detailed on next week on budget reconciliation and immigration provisions. Maybe you can share if any.
Yeah, just not to interrupt. Let's just remember that everything's very contentious in Washington, right? So for every one side who says one thing positive, the other side's going to say it's negative. So there's a lot of stuff that still has to play out for everyone to kind of, if I want 20 things and you want 20 things and they're the opposite, there is going to have to be compromise where we would each, in theory, compromise 10 things to get to our goal for 10 each. Obviously it doesn't always pan out that way. So we just have to sit back and see, and that's why it's so important. And I would strongly urge everyone, if you have the time, or if you can take the time, reach out to the representatives, because that's how change happens. Okay, so we really need to have as much active participation as possible in this process so we can have a positive outcome.
Okay. The last question on this budget reconciliation. Do you really think about this budget will approve, the bills will approve or not? So we see a lot of US immigration bills, but we don't see any approvals from Senates and Houses.
So with 100%, well, nothing's 100%, but with almost 100% certainty, I mean, the infrastructure bill is going to be passed. They've already given the green light for immigration to be a part of this infrastructure bill. The threshold for getting approval is much less for the infrastructure bill. But, you know, if all the Democrats say we want every single immigrant who's in the United States to have citizenship tomorrow, you know, that's probably not going to pass, right? So they have to change whatever is going to be in the bill that's going to be acceptable for to get enough votes to pass this. Maybe they use immigration, you know, as a bargaining tool. Maybe, I know it's an infrastructure bill, there's a lot of retraining of jobs, things like this. So maybe, you know, some people want to look at education, like a community college, make that free, or have some other type of, you know, something completely independent from immigration could be bargained against the immigration. So it's a complete, like I say, it's a complete bargaining chip. We don't really know how the dust will settle on it. And until the president signs the bill into law, we really will not know for sure where we're at.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lucas. So
thank you, Venkat.
Yeah, you can share if anything else, or else we can close the session.
I think we can go and close. You know, again, if you haven't done so already, please participate, contact representatives. This is the mission critical time to do this, not to wait next week, not to, you know, wait 2 weeks. We need to do it today. So other than that, we'll see everyone next week. Please, if you have any ideas or suggestions, share. This platform's here for the benefit of the community. So we do want to hear and have participation if possible.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you very much for being with Telugu NRI Radio. So catch up in next week and same time and same platform.